This episode of the Europuck podcast is brought to you by DraftKings. Basketball season won't be around forever, guys, so get in on all the action now with DraftKings, the leader in one-day fantasy sports. DraftKings is giving new players a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes, and you can claim your chance to do so by using code THPN during sign-up. Playing daily fantasy basketball is really simple, folks. You just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the rest of the competition. There's no better way to put your basketball knowledge to the test, and every dunk, steal, or assist means so much more with a DraftKings fantasy lineup. If basketball isn't your cup of tea though, don't worry, as DraftKings has plenty of money up for grabs in their hockey tournaments too, so you can make it rain on whatever sport is your go-to. Download the DraftKings app now and use promo code THPN during sign-up to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes throughout the week. That's code THPN to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes only at DraftKings. A big thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring this episode. Hello, bonjour, hello, hi, heya, and privyet, hockey fans. Welcome back to the Europuck podcast, the show where two Brits talk all things European hockey as part of the Hockey Podcast Network, brought to you by DraftKings. My name is Hayden, or Oddman Rush, as you can see up there, and joining me is, of course, Chris Gadsby. Hey, Chris.
Hello.
I didn't think I'd go for the long-winded introduction for you this week.
I was about to say that, yeah.
You called me out on it last week, so I thought I'd go something a little bit more subtle this week, you know? How you doing, Chris?
Yeah, not too bad. As you can, well, I don't know if you can tell on the stream, but I'm on a new fast internet.
Are you?
High definition. And
you didn't tell me.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I did, and you did absolutely no reaction to it whatsoever.
Did you? When did you say that?
Yes. On Wednesday when I got it. Hang on, let me get it up.
Oh, yeah, please do. Show the receipts, Chris. Show the receipts. I need to double check this.
Get it up.
I don't remember having this message.
So Wednesday at 25 to 9, I sent you a GIF that said, ludicrous speed, go, and I just put, the speed!
Oh, right.
It's on there, yes. For everybody to see.
I can see it. I had no idea what you meant by that. Because you gave no context before as to what that was related to.
Because we were speaking about it in detail the other week and stuff, and I was saying, oh, it might be for this week or it might not, and I thought you'd have twigged, but
fair enough.
Yes, I mean, I'm now in high definition.
I mean, not so much, but maybe. Yeah, it's more the camera quality. It's more the camera quality than it is the overall kind of internet quality.
True.
So
I might have a better camera somewhere,
but you know, baby steps, Chris. Baby steps. We're getting there. We're getting there. It's almost towards the end of the season, but we're almost there, Chris. We've almost got rid of all of our technical problems, and everything's going to go just fine. How are you finding the new internet, though?
I shouldn't. Yeah, it's good. Hopefully, I shouldn't drop out.
Yes,
as often or at all as I used to. But yeah, it's great being able to keep tabs open whilst doing this and not have to worry about it too much, and having a speed of 20 rather than 2, which is yes,
must be lovely.
One downside to it is that because uploading and downloading from the server for work is now 10 times faster, I don't have the excuse to go away and do something else for 5-10 minutes while something's uploading.
Yeah.
So that's the one downside to it. But hopefully in a faster internet, it means I can do more stuff for Lions and for this. So yeah, in terms of the internet, it's all pretty good. And then that's kind of the only real news. I suppose my partner had got a flat tire, so I had to take that, put the spare on and take it to get changed and stuff, but nothing... nothing that exciting.
I saw that you went on a nice walk towards the end of your week off last week.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, well, the thing is we filled the skip on Tuesday, because obviously we're doing the garden.
I remember you saying,
filled the skip on Tuesday, rang them up and said, can you come and get it and give us another one? They said, oh, yeah, it'll be Monday. So we were like, oh, well, we can't do any more in the garden for the rest of the week, so we may as well go and do fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So you went on a nice walk, and obviously the weather's been quite nice recently, so...
The weather has been really nice, yeah. So went on a couple of walks and then had Lions on Saturday where we lost.
Oh.
And then watched the Lions on Sunday away where we lost.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, it started off so well and then started going not very well.
Well, you know, they had to become the Nottingham Lions again again at some point, Chris. You just got to give them a little bit of time. Oh, but it sucks because obviously they had such a good start, but it is what it is at the end of the day, isn't it? So,
yeah.
There's nothing really that interesting that's gone on in my life. It's almost, we're getting towards May now, so...
Mm-hmm.
What's the Tuesday, the 27th of April, as we're recording this, to date it, because I always forget, and then Chris mentions it like half an hour into the podcast. We don't have to date it, but I feel like it's better to, because then people listening are like, oh, but this game actually happened. But it's like, but we're recording this on the Tuesday, so no, it hadn't. So there's still plenty of hockey going on within Europe. Pretty much all in the playoffs now, as far as I'm aware. The Elite Series playoffs has just started, and I believe Nottingham just took a 1-0 lead against Coventry. Yep. So Chris is very happy about that. We're just going to talk you through all the score standings. Chris says he's got a quiz for the end of the episode. So with the return of the quiz, I know some of you guys love to watch it. I love to fail at it. So let's do it. Let's just talk about the scores because I believe we have the biggest league in Europe coming to an end very shortly as far as things go. And that is obviously the KHL, the league we always start with here on the Europuck podcast. And Chris will also be very happy to hear the second seed Avangard Omsk 1 win away from winning their first ever Gagarin Cup championship. Take us through the most recent games in that series, Chris, and any interesting things worth noting.
Yes, so it's been very back and forth all the way. So it was 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2. It's been a really close series. Avangard Omsk with a 2-0 win yesterday are now 3-2 up in the series. So they are, as you said, 1 game away from the Gagarin Cup. The interesting thing to point out for me, in game 4, it was 4-3, only needed 5.5 minutes of overtime. And that means that every single series this year had a game went to overtime, which is mad.
When
you consider so many other leagues where they had... that we've had 4-0 sweeps and all the way through. But that was a really interesting game, and I want to bring up a couple of things about that game. Firstly, Avangard Omsk were 3-0 up. Avangard Omsk were 3-2 up with 2 seconds to go.
Oh,
and
wow.
with 1 second to go on the power play, CSKA Moscow scored thanks to Matt Robinson, his 3rd goal of the playoffs. Former Dynamo Moscow player as well, scored, with a second to go on the power play. So thanks very much, Ville Poca, for conceding that penalty with just over 90 seconds to go to bring that back. But they did kind of make amends for themselves, did Avangard, when, despite the fact they were short-handed, they managed to get the overtime goal at 5:39 in overtime with Poca assisting that one. So he more than made up for his mistake 10 minutes or so before. Avangard take a 3-2 lead in the series, and they are playing Game 6 tomorrow, so Wednesday at 5:00 GMT. No, hang on. It's BST now, isn't it? We're in British summertime. 5:00
something like
British
that.
time. I don't know. 5:00 British time on Wednesday. And then should Game 7 be required, it will be at some point on Friday.
Okay, so by next week's episode, we will have our winner of the 2021 Gagarin Cup. And the second league that we looked at this season will finally have finished. It's interesting that it was the second league we looked at because obviously the Polish league started just before, I think, if I remember correctly. And then that obviously finished a couple of weeks ago. But we've already had several other leagues come and go in between the KHL season starting and the playoffs ending, which is...
The thing with that, of course, is that the Polish league has like a 36-game season and KHL's got like a 60-game season.
Of course,
so there is a difference to it. But yeah, I mean, I'm obviously all for Avangard Omsk in this one. But I mean, even if they'd have to fall in 7 games now. Yeah. And I think even if you get to the final and fall in 7 games to CSKA Moscow, who have been a really strong side for years gone by and another strong side again this year, I think given the last time they got to the final, they were swept. I think you can just measure the progress there that Omsk have had over the last few years.
Absolutely. I think regardless of who wins, it's going to be a valiant effort for either team, regardless. Obviously, I'm also rooting for Avangard Omsk. I'd like to see Ilya Kovalchuk win the Gagarin Cup once again, because he's won it once or twice already. I think he's won it twice. Can you check that for me? I think he won it twice with SK St. Petersburg.
Checking Kovalchuk.
Yeah, Ilya Kovalchuk, because he's obviously a co-captain. He might be the illegitimate captain of Omsk now, because Alexei Emelin's had some injury troubles and some kind of health issues. And also to see CSKA and Moscow fall at the final hurdle, as a St. Petersburg fan, I will never complain about seeing that year after year after year. So,
yes, Kovalchuk has 2 Gagarin Cups, and then an Olympic Games, 2 World Championships. So he's, decorated career, shall we say.
Yes, he never quite got his hands on the Stanley Cup. He got close with the Devils back in 2012, but to no avail, unfortunately. So he's managed to get his hands on a couple of championships back home. He obviously really cares about playing back home because he's gone back so many times. And yeah, just to see him lead his team, because he came in late in the season, had a really good showing for that team. Reid Boucher has been solid for Avangard Omsk all season long. I believe he scored that shorthanded tally, if I'm not mistaken, or he scored a shorthanded tally recently in the Gagarin Cup finals, because I saw the KHL tweet about it. But yeah, just to see Omsk win their first Gagarin Cup in KHL history, it's those stories that you like to see. Obviously, Moscow, they were the best team in the regular season. They've been a juggernaut in the KHL for the last few years. But to see the second seed win the cup, to see a team that hasn't got their hands on that trophy yet add to their legacy and add to their history, that would just be such a fantastic achievement. And yeah, so obviously we'll keep you updated with what happens. I mean, by the time this goes out, it might have already been decided. So we'll have to let you know next week what happens, and we'll give you a quick rundown of the KHL playoffs, because there's obviously been some movement with some of the teams that have already been knocked out. There's been some contract extensions being announced, some head coach hirings here and there. So it's going to be very interesting to see. We will probably have quite a lot to talk about later on in the podcast. As the leagues start to finish up, we'll have quite a lot of KHL news to maybe discuss as well. So, but anyway, let's move on to the second league that we're going to look at. And we're looking at a couple of leagues that have finished their seasons and playoffs now. And they're the 2 leagues that we pretty much followed up with last week because they were close. And we'll start with the Czech Extraliga for this one, because they have officially announced their champion for the playoffs, the 2021 Extraliga playoffs. And that was the second seed HC Oceláři Třinec. Managed to take a 5-game series victory over Billy Tigry Liberec, the 4th seed. And Chris, you've got something to mention about the Champions Hockey League with regards to this. So take it away.
So the Czech Extraliga get 3 spots in the Champions Hockey League for next year. The first 2 were taken up by Sparta Prague and Oceláři Třinec, as you've said. And we were waiting on that 3rd seed because Liberec, who were 4th in the regular season, were in that final against Třinec. If they were to win that, they would have got that 3rd seed. But as you've just said, they didn't win it. They went down in 5 games. So Mlada Boleslav are back for their 3rd appearance in the Champions Hockey League after securing 3rd spot in the regular season. So that took us down to 6 spots to go in the Champions Hockey League for next year. And as we'll come on to a bit later on, there's another one that's gone this week as well.
Interesting. Yeah, it's good to know. I'm getting really excited for the Champions Hockey League again. I don't know if it's because I missed it. Yeah, I don't know if it's because I made my video on it, like on my channel a week or 2 ago, just like going into more detail about some of the different players that have obviously had lengthy NHL experience and, you know, how their teams did, and kind of looking at, this team was eliminated in the semi-finals, this team never made it past the group stage. But yeah, it's just the fact that I want to see the best teams in Europe going at it again. It's one of those tournaments that I didn't quite realise how much I enjoyed watching it until we missed it this year, because it's one of those ones that I'd pay attention to the UK teams and how they did, and I'd always keep an eye on their games and try and watch as many Elite League teamed games that were on when they're getting a beating by the Vaksha Lakers or the Nottingham Panthers going on their kind of miracle run to the playoffs and everything like that. But now this year I'm kind of, or next season as it comes up, I'm really interested to keep a closer eye on some of the other European teams. Like I want to keep an eye on Rungsted and how they're doing, because you know that I've got a Champions Hockey League jersey. If they make it, yeah. Haven't they already secured it, or Is it the playoff winner? Okay, so it is the playoff winner. So if they do make it, I've got a Champions Hockey League jersey there, so I want to keep an eye on them. I want to keep an eye on, how the Swedish Hockey League teams do. Does Frölunda win it again? Do we have a situation where a team from the Swiss League finally wins it, or another Finnish team for the second time in its history? So I'm just really looking forward to it, basically, to say. So how did the final few games of the Extraliga playoffs finish up, Chris? Because obviously, where were we at last week? Because weren't we? Was it 2-1 or 2-0, something like that?
It was 2-0 when we recorded last week. Trinec took the opening two games. Liberec then hit back in game 3. They had a 3-0 victory, just to pull it back. So they knew they needed to win this series to get into the Champions Hockey League and obviously win the trophy for the playoffs as well. So they brought it back to 2-1. They then needed overtime in game 4 to Trinec. It was 0-0 after 60 minutes. Needed just shy of 10 minutes of overtime before Trinec got the only goal of the game to put themselves 3-1 up. And then it was always obviously going to be a difficult task for Liberec to come back to it. And it was mainly just staying out of the box, to be honest. 2 goals on the power play for Trinec, 1 in the second and 1 in the third. And then an empty net goal with just under 2.5 minutes to go. Sealed a 3-0 victory for Trinec, and they, in front of their own fans, I believe, won the Czech Extraliga.
Oh, well, so it's good to see. I mean, obviously, Trinec has been a team that's been one of the top teams in the Czech Extraliga for the last few seasons. They've been a regular team at the Champions Hockey League, so seeing them as the second seed and going on to win the championship, I don't think surprises many Czech Extraliga fans, given how strong of a team they've got. Obviously, with both of the semi-final series in the Extraliga coming down to 7 games, it really was anybody's guess at that point. And the second and fourth seed went through, and then obviously the highest seed managed to beat them out. So congratulations to Trinec for winning the Czech Extraliga. So that's the last we need to mention about the Czech Extraliga this season. That's them done. Speaking of another league that's done for the season because their finalist or their champion has been crowned, it's the Ice Hockey League in Austria, Austria/the rest of Europe. So we had here, obviously, the first and second seed, HC Bolzano, going up against Klagenfurt. And once again, in this example, it's another second seed, but this time it's the lower seed in the final bracket. Klagenfurt manages to take a 5-game series victory against HC Bolzano. And once again, we've mentioned this pretty much every single week we've talked about the Ice Hockey League playoffs and the regular season. Klagenfurt wasn't that far behind Bolzano in the regular season standings. It wasn't a legitimate first seed against a kind of decent second seed. It was more 2 teams that could have equally have gotten the first seed by the end of the season, going up against it. The 2 best teams in the Ice Hockey League, bar none, without a doubt. And it just so happens that the second seed managed to get the upper hand on the first seed. So, Chris, where did we leave this series off last week, and how did it end?
Yeah, so it was 3-1 when we recorded last week. In fact, they played game 5, the what would prove to be final game. They just started it. Basically, we finished up the recording last week. So it was very much kind of, if we'd have recorded a day later, then it would have been done last week. But it was a close game. It was a 5-3 victory for Klagenfurt. It did go back and forth as well. One thing I noticed is that it was the power play. Klagenfurt got 3 power play goals in that one, so they did have a very, very strong power play. It's one, obviously, because flash scores, it gives me different data depending on the league. So I can see that there were 5 power play goals in that game, but I can't see the penalties or anything like that.
Right.
But yeah, it was back and forth. It was 1-1, 3-2 at the end of the second period in favour of Klagenfurt. And Bolzano just couldn't find enough, really, to get it done. And I think the damage had been done early on. We mentioned last week when Bolzano got beaten 6-0 at home in game 1. It just really put them on the back foot, I think. And then as soon as they fell 3-1 down, again, you don't often see teams coming back from 3-1 down to win a series. And we said last week that it was always going to be a tough task for them, and they were going to be up against it. And it proved to be that way as well. But both these teams, will be seeing them in Champions Hockey League action next series as well. And Klagenfurt have effectively done the double with the Austrian trophy and the the playoff trophy as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to mention that in case you forgot that obviously Klagenfurt get both the trophies that Austrian teams can win come the playoffs. Now, obviously, me and the Austrian League, we've had our ups and downs this season. I've had my fair share of things to say about the Austrian League, but you know what? It was a great season for them. It's nice to see the second seed take the victory. Obviously, like you said, it's no real loss in terms of the Champions Hockey League standings for either of these two teams. They're both going to be there, so it's not a problem. And Bolzano is obviously a solid team, by themselves, and they obviously just got beat. They just didn't have it when they needed it. Sometimes it just comes down to that. It doesn't matter how good your team is or the run-in that you had in the playoffs before that. Sometimes the opponent that you're playing just has your number more often than not, and that just seems like this series was a prime example of that. So congratulations to Klagenfurt for winning the Ice Hockey League, and that's another league that we are done with for this season. Yeah. So we're really getting down to kind of the single-digit leagues to look at. We've only got about 6 or 7 left to look at next week, and then obviously next week the KHL is going to be done, and probably the Danish Meta League is going to be done. So we're going to be down to about half a dozen leagues to look at for the next few weeks, and then 2 weeks after that, they're all going to be done because, we're getting close to the World Championships. Then our
preview the World Championships.
Exactly,
yeah.
And then that's where our attention will shift, and I will be looking forward to it. And of course, we're going to have lots of discussions about how GB do. So let's move on to the aforementioned Danish Meta League. They are the next closest league to finishing their playoffs. And the Rungsted Sea Capitals against the Aalborg Pirates, the first and second seed once again, as we mentioned last week when they started going up against each other. Now, Rungsted have played pretty well. I've been keeping an eye on them via flash scores as the series has gone on. They've played pretty well for the most part in this series. However, they just haven't quite had enough to seal the deal. They had the chance last game during Game 5 of the series. Couldn't quite get it done. They went up in that game as far as I'm aware, but then Aalborg, a team facing elimination, a bit of desperation kicks in, a bit of, momentum, bit of adrenaline. They managed to get the victory. So it's going to a 6th game at least. Chris, do you want to talk about the games that have taken place between last week and this week and kind of update us with when the next game is in the series and everything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned just in the last league, didn't I, that teams don't really come back from 3-1 down too often. Aalborg are coming back from 3-0 down in this.
Wow.
Rungsted took the first 3 games, 3-0, 3-2 and 5-0. We had, the first 2 games, they were 2-0 up when we recorded last week. They won last Tuesday by 5-0. But then just in the last couple of games, they just haven't really had it. Aalborg winning game 4, the crucial game 4, by 5-2, just really turning it up. At the back end of the third period, they scored, it was 2-2 with 10 minutes to go. Couple of power play goals and then a goal right near the end. It sealed a 5-2 victory for Aalborg in that one. Then a 4-2 victory in game game 5. As you said, they're Rungsted. They went up in the first period. They Aalborg brought it back to 1-1. Rungsted then went up 4 minutes into the final period as well, before again 13:52, 15 and 19:54. Aalborg just turning the screw again to make it 4-2. So Aalborg have really got the upper hand at the moment, and they are at home for game 6, which is tonight. Starts at 7:30 our time. I obviously haven't got any indication on when game 7 may well be, but it's 2 or 3 days afterwards, so it'll be Thursday or Friday, game 7, if they need it. So again, another one that will definitely be done this time next week. And because Denmark is classed as a challenger league, whichever team of these two wins the playoffs will get that Champions Hockey League spot.
And I'm really hoping it's Rungsted, because I'd really like to have a team that I support actually win a championship for once. That'd be really nice. But yeah, so obviously the saying, it's not over till it's over. I feel like the Danish Meta League is a prime example of that. Like you said, it looked like it might be over. Rungsted could just take the sweep, get the victory, get the championship and the Champions Hockey League place. But Aalborg, they're not going down without a fight. It's a very commendable effort that they're putting in there. So home ice advantage might be able to help them take that 6th game of the series and then all or nothing in game 7, or will Rungsted finally have enough in them to put this series away and finish off the playoffs? I guess we'll have to wait and see and update you next week. So yeah, that's the latest league that's in its final. There's several other leagues that we're looking at, but none of them are nowhere near their final stage just yet. So we're going to move you on to the Swedish Hockey League next. and take a look, because there isn't a huge amount to talk about with some of those other leagues that we discussed. Like you mentioned, there's only like 1 or 2 teams left in it. We've given you all the useful information. There you go. So, the semi-final round we have reached in the Swedish Hockey League. So I'll just take you through the final standings of the quarterfinals, because I believe the Skellefteå-Luleå series hadn't quite been decided this time last week. I might be wrong on that.
Just check.
I know that the other 3...
Yeah, it was Game 7 the night that we recorded.
Yes. I thought it was something along those lines, because I remember all the other 3 series we discussed, how they'd all been sweeps. So the Växjö Lakers made it through, Åbro, the 6th seed, made it through the upset, and then Rögle BK beat Frölunda 4-0 to sweep that series. And then Game 7 went to Skellefteå, the 4th seed, against Luleå, the 5th seed. So close series there. Could have gone either way in that Game 7, but the higher seed managed to just about squeak themselves through to the semi-final round. And speaking of the semi-final round, the brackets are as follows. We have the 1st seeded Växjö Lakers against the 6th seed Åbro, and they are Växjö, the higher seed, currently 2-1 up against Åbro. And then the other semi-final seed is Rögle BK, the 2nd seed, against the aforementioned Skellefteå, the 4th seed in the playoffs. And Rögle also have a 2-1 series lead on Skellefteå. So we're seeing more of the status quo in the sense that the top seeds are beating the lower seeds, but is this a 7-game series, or are they going to...
No, it's a 5-game series.
I wanted to double check, so I know some of the leagues have made changes to that. So both Åbro and Skellefteå are facing elimination as things stand right now. Can they manage to tie it up and take it to a 5th game? We'll have to wait and see. Chris, do you want to give us the details on the Skellefteå-Luleå game, kind of that Game 7, and see what the difference maker was for them to get through to that semi-final round?
Yeah, so they just kind of went for it, really. So they got 2 goals in the first period. So they were 2-0 up at the end of the first period, scoreless in the second. They then went 3-0 up. It's 7:32. So it was 3-0 with 3 minutes to go.
Wow.
And Allaire, I think, just realised that they weren't going to get this, because if you look at the details in those final 3 minutes, that they pulled one back at 17:07. But then it just got a bit kind of messy, really. So we had, let me just have a look at this, just to get the individual players. So we've got Juhani Tervonen for Allaire, he's played for Helsinki as well in the past and things like that with his 5 points. They did get, the tempers got the better of him, shall we put it that way. So at 18:07, he got a 2-minute minor for holding the stick.
Right.
And then a 2+10 abuse of officials, and then a 10-minute game misconduct.
Right.
And then a minute and a half later, Engsund got a 2+10 and a 10-minute misconduct for abuse of officials as well. And I think it just, when they realised they weren't going to get back into it, it just got, their tempers went. So, yeah, Skellefteå got themselves into the semi-finals. As I said, best of 5 in these semi-finals. And you look at it, Åbro, they're giving Växjö a good run for it, to be honest, given the difference that they were in the league. So Game 1 was 3-2 to Växjö. Game 2 was 1-0 to Åbro, and Game 3 was 1-0 to Växjö. So a really tight series there. As I said, Game 4 is tonight, as we're recording this. Åbro obviously need to win it to force a Game 5. Should Växjö go through, then Skellefteå get the final Champions Hockey League spot in the SHL. Should Åbro get through, then they'll have to win the whole playoffs. So that's the situation in the top half of that draw. In the bottom half of that draw, again, it's been a close one. But Rögle, they took a 2-0 lead in the series, 3-2 and 2-1 in games 1 and 2. Skellefteå, again, as we've seen from them in the past, when they're facing elimination, they can just turn it up. A very good showing from them in the last game, which actually was last night. A 4-1 victory for them. They had 2 power play goals in the first period, and Rögle, who really struggled to stay out of the penalty box. And then they got a third one just past the midway point in the third period before netting an empty netter with 2 minutes and 1 second to go. Just having a look at the power plays on there. So Rögle took 14 penalty minutes, 7 minor penalties, and Skellefteå were 2 for 7 on the power play. If I just put that into the first period, they were 50% on the power play in the first period, because Rögle took 4 minor penalties in that first period alone, which really cost them and put them on the back foot for the rest of the game. So we've got The SHL, the way it works, well, I'm saying the way it works, but they've got both of those game 4s are tonight. So it could all be done tonight. We could need another one, but what is for certain is that we will have our finalists when we record next week.
Oh, how exciting. It's interesting to note the power play efficiency of Skellefteå in that third game, because obviously you need your special teams on a roll if you want to take a deep run into a postseason, and they can be the difference maker between a lower seed going through to the next round or the top seed or the higher seed managing to hold on. So we also mentioned last week how Åbro have been playing very well defensively against Leksand in the quarterfinal stage. So the fact that 2 of the games have only been a 1-0 victory for either team, that doesn't surprise me in the slightest, because I can very much imagine that Växjö have tried to go, look, if we play a strong defensive game as well, we just need to hope to get 1 goal in, and then from there we can kind of figure it out. Whereas then it's the same with Åbro. They know they can shut it down when they need to.
Yeah, I mean, Åbro, they've only conceded 4 goals in 3 games. Växjö have conceded 3 goals in 3 games. So, it is really close. I mean, Åbro, they had 1 goal against in 27 shots in game, 3? And it was 3 goals against in 47 shots.
Wow.
In game 1. So the netminders really being strong on that. I mean, even though they lost 3-2, that was an overtime game as well. I should point out that game 1.
Oh, wow.
It was 93.62 save percentage, 44 from 47 in that first one, and they looked as though Växjö as well. They looked as though they had an injury or something early on, because they subbed their netminder out after just 7.5 minutes, and they were still leading 1-0 at that time. So I hadn't conceded any goals. So I'll just do a little bit more looking on that. But yeah, it took more than half an hour of overtime, that game 1, for the deadlock to be broken. So Åbro, really are giving it everything that they've got.
Yeah, I mean, given when you factor in all of those little points in Åbro's playoff run, they've found lightning in a bottle when it comes to the playoffs. Yeah, they might not make it through to the finals. They might fall at this final hurdle. Might not quite make it past the first seed Växjö. I don't think anybody would be too disappointed if they lost out to the first seed. Yeah, of course, Åbro fans would like to make it to the finals, but the fact that they're, like you mentioned at the beginning, there's such a mismatch between how these teams finished in the regular season. There's obviously just something that's clicked there for Åbro towards the end of the season and going into the playoffs, where they've gone, it doesn't matter that we're the 6th seed, we have a legitimate chance to win this just as much as anybody else. We've earned our spot in the playoffs. They obviously got their first round bye by being the last team to have a first round bye in the Swedish Hockey League. So maybe there's just a player came back from injury. Maybe they just had a bit of a team talk. There's obviously a load of different factors that might have gone into it, but the fact they're going head-to-head against the first seed Växjö Lakers is, first of all, showing that the Växjö Lakers aren't invincible. So if Växjö do go through, the team that goes through in the other bracket will know, okay, so they do have some weaknesses here. They're not completely indestructible. But it's also showing that Åbro, it doesn't matter that they're the 6th seed, they have a chance to kind of break through and make it through to the finals, maybe, if they manage to climb back in this series. It's a tough ask, given that they're already 2 games down, or they're 1 game down, 1 game away from elimination, and it's against the first seed in the entire Swedish Hockey League, which is known for being a pretty good league in Europe. But like we said last week, if anybody stands a chance, I think Åbro is that team. So, yeah, fair play to them. Did you manage to find that information, Chris?
Oh, yeah, well, all I can assume is that the netminder that got subbed in 7 minutes into game 1 has started the other 2 games. So I'm assuming there is an injury to that.
Yeah.
But yes, Åbro, of course, they're battling to stay in it, and if they manage to get to the final, that we could see them in a CHL jersey next season. Skellefteå, for them, it doesn't really matter as much. Obviously, they want to win the playoffs, but if Växjö get through to the final, then they're in the Champions Hockey League anyway as the 4th best side in the regular season.
Yeah, so I don't think they'll complain either way. The only way they will complain is if Åbro wins the Swedish Hockey League. At that point, it's kind of like,
being the 6th seed, I'd love that.
Yeah, that would be a great story. That would be an absolutely wonderful story. A team like Åbro that really had its struggles early on this season, but they managed to bounce back, and here they are in the semi-finals, a couple of games away from the finals. Good luck against Växjö, I guess, is all we can say about that. So let's move on to a league very close to them in terms of talent level. Let's look at the Swiss National League, which is probably our favourite postseason so far. this year because of all of the lower seeds that have managed to make their way into the latter rounds of the playoffs. So we left you last week with, I believe the quarterfinal round hadn't quite finished yet. There were several games to go in a few of them. I think Zug had already beat SC Bern in their 6-game series. So the first seed beat the 9th seed.
No, they hadn't. So no, I'll run through it.
Yeah, go for it.
I've got it all up. So it was Zug. It was 2-2 when we recorded last week between Zug and Bern, but Zug just turned it up there, 5-2 and 1-0 to round that series off. Rapperswil, they were 3-1 up. They managed to go through in 5 games. It needed 37 minutes of overtime.
Oh, wow.
That game 5, and Rapperswil just managed to get over the line in that one. Zurich, they found themselves at 2-2 again against Lausanne, but then they found themselves 3-1 up against Lausanne. And then again in game 6, it was a 3-0 shutout for Zurich, so they just turned the screw a bit against the 4th seed Lausanne. And then Servette, they were 3-1 up, and then they just turned it on. So they had a 4-0 victory in game 4, a 5-0 victory in game 5 to go through, and they'd won game 3 by 8 goals to 3 as well. So they managed to bag themselves 17 goals in 3 games against Fribourg to get themselves into the semi-finals.
Wow. I mean, fair play to Geneva and fair play especially to the Rapperswil Jona Lakers, taking out the 2nd-seeded HC Lugano in that quarterfinal round. Now, obviously, they haven't got a very easy trip through to the finals, do the Rapperswil Jona Lakers. They're now up against the 1st-seeded EV Zug, so they're taking on the 2nd seed, then taking on the 1st seed, and then they'll either take on the 5th or 6th seed, depending on whether they make the finals and whoever makes the finals out of them. But what a huge confidence boost for the likes of Rapperswil and Geneva to win a 5-game series convincingly against 2 of the top teams in the Swiss National League this season. Obviously, Zurich was the lower seeded team as well, and they beat Lausanne, but the 4th and 5th seed, I don't think you could... Yeah, obviously, they were the lower seed, and they did get the victory against the higher seeded team, but I feel like that's not quite the same as being the 10th seed beating the 2nd seed or the 6th seed beating the 3rd seed. So I feel like the National League is going to be a lot of fun to keep watching. So as the semi-final stand right now, as we're recording this, EV Zug, the 1st seed, is beating Rapperswil 1-0 in the first semi-final bracket, and in the second one, the 6th-seeded Geneva Servette HC are beating Zurich, the 5th seed, 1-0. So we might have a situation where the 6th seed Geneva goes through and EV Zug goes through, but we're only 1 game into the series. There is still plenty to play for. Is there any difference in the overall lengths of the series for this, Chris?
Yeah, so these are best of 5 as well. Again, it's a common thing that you're going to see is because obviously these leagues are getting the playoffs done before the World Championship starts. So they are best of 5. Zug just caught Rapperswil out of the gate in game 1. They were 3-0 up by the end of the first period. They ended up taking it by 6 goals to 1.
Wow.
And then Servette against Zurich, it was a 2-1 game, a much closer game there. But these are best of 5. And we've got game 2 in each of these is tonight. Game 3 is on Thursday. So, by the time this comes out, if there's a sweep, we might already know a finalist. So game 4, I'm guessing, will be Saturday, game 5 Monday. So when we record next week, we'll know our finalists in the Swiss National League.
Absolutely. And here's hoping it's Rapperswil and Geneva for a 10th seed, 6th seed showdown for the finals. Can you tell me like a good underdog story here on the Europuck podcast? I think you can. So let's move on to the German DEL. I was thinking about the Finnish Liga, but funnily enough, the DEL is actually a little bit further ahead in their playoff structure than the Finnish Liga is right now. So I thought I'd go with them first. So, it's important to mention, like Chris has said with several of the other leagues, it's all best of 5 here in the DEL. Is there any later changes to that, or is it all best of 5 for the entire playoffs? I can't quite remember.
Well, no, it's best of 3 as it has been all the way through. The DEL has always been best of 3.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, sorry, not best of 5.
Because
best
they're trying
of 3.
to get it through. So,
yes.
We're in our semi-finals. The 3rd seed in the North, Ingolstadt, have taken a 1-0 lead over Berlin. That was a 4-3 game. It didn't actually need overtime, but Ingolstadt, will be glad they got this win because they had a goal disallowed on video review in the first period as well.
Wow.
So they've taken the 1-0 lead in that. And then Adler Mannheim, 4-1 victors against Wolfsburg in the in the other semi-final. A thing to note here as well is that because it's first seed against third seed everywhere, we're still waiting to see about the final spot for the Champions Hockey League in the DEL, because if the first seeds both get through, then it will go to Bremerhaven as the fourth highest points in the regular season. But obviously, if a third seed wins the playoffs, then they'll get it as well. So we could be in for a chance of, third seed. Well, a third seed has to win the playoffs, but it could be third seed against third seed. Or it could be third against first. We'll have to see. But yeah, so they're best of three. They play their game twos tomorrow. And of course, it could be a sweep. It could not be. But again, I suspect we will definitely know the finalists, and they may have played first couple of games in that final by the time we record next week.
Yeah, my mistake. I thought it was a best of five series, but that's why I have you here, Chris, to correct me when I'm wrong. So just to round up the quarterfinal series, because they weren't quite done by the time we recorded last week's episode. So the Berlin Ice Bears, the first seed in the North Division, took out the Eislowen Roosters, the fourth seed, 2-1. So took all the games in that series, but Berlin did manage to squeak through. The third seeded Ingolstadt managed to beat Red Bull Munich, the second seed, 2-0 sweep. So that's a pretty impressive effort for them. Then in the South Division, Adler Mannheim took down the Straubing Tigers, the fourth seed, 2-1 in that 3-game series. And then last but by no means least, the Wolfsburg Grizzlies took down Bremerhaven 2-1 in that series. Then, like Chris mentioned, third seed Ingolstadt 1-0 up on the Berlin Ice Bears in the North semi-final stage. Then the South semi-final stage, the first seeded Adler Mannheim currently 1-0 up on the Wolfsburg Grizzlies. So, I mean, we could be in a position where there's only like 4 games left to play in the DEL.
Yeah, I'm just having a look through, because other than the Berlin Iserlohn one, all of those deciding games in that first round went to overtime.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we haven't seen it that much. I mean, we saw it once in that Panthers Belfast thing, but overtime, score or eliminated, must just be the best and worst thing for those players to be involved in, because every time the other team comes the other way, you think, well, if we don't stop this, that's it.
Yeah,
it must be brilliant and terrifying to play in at the same time.
Oh, absolutely, and especially for these teams. Yeah, it might be in the quarter-final round, but it really does have that kind of Stanley Cup final Game 7 feeling, doesn't it? Because, like you mentioned, if you concede a goal, that's your season done. So, yeah, there's always something really exciting about that, but it's always those moments in sports that you see the stars step up, and like the guys that become like legends for your team or household names in the league. That's where they make their money. That's where the superstars earn their paycheck, essentially, isn't it? In those big moments. Yeah. So, will we see any more of them going into the semi-final and the final stage? I guess we'll have to wait and see. I hope so, though. It'd be really exciting to see. So, penultimately, I believe we've only got 2 more leagues left to look at. Let's take a look at the Finnish Liga. Because they are currently, they're about to start their semi-final stage. So they've gone through their first round stage. The 8th and 9th seed played, the 7th and 10th seed played. We told you all about that last week, because it was based on a 2-game aggregate series, which is why Eels and Cuckoo, they are 1-1 each in that, but Eels went through. So, it was a best-of-5 series in the quarterfinals. The first seed, Luko, managed to sweep Eels, the 8th seed. So, Eels make it through that the round of 8 stage, but they get knocked out, don't win another game for the rest of the playoffs. The 4th seed, Tapara, managed to beat the 5th seed, Kalpa, 3-1. So, the first semi-final bracket, first seed, Luko against 4th seed, Tapara. Then in the other brackets, we had IFK Helsinki taking a 3-0 sweep over Karpat. So, both of the teams that made it through from the round of 8 that had to play in that first round of the playoffs didn't win a single game once they got to the quarterfinals, which is kind of disappointing, but they made it there. So, maybe that has some kind of financial benefit to them for where they finished at the end of the season or something. And then the 3rd seed, TPS Turku, managed to defeat the 6th seed Lahti Pelicans, but it went all the way in that series. The only series in that quarterfinal stage that went the distance by 3-2. So, kind of expectedly, but also somewhat boringly, we have a 1, 2, 3, 4 seed in the semi-final round. So IFK Helsinki taking on TPS Turku, 2nd, 3rd seed. Luko, the 1st seed, taking on Tapara in the 4th seed. So anything you want to mention about the Finnish League as things stand right now, Chris?
What I'll mention is that because it is a 1, 2, 3, 4, Tapara, being the 4th seed, are now in the Champions Hockey League for next season, obviously a regular in the Champions Hockey League, but because one, two, three are already qualified, if they win the playoffs, then the fourth seed gets it anyway. And if Tappara win the playoffs, well, they're the fourth seed anyway. So Tappara, are qualified for the Champions Hockey League for next season. We're down to 5 spots remaining.
Only 5 spots to go. It's interesting because we're going to talk about this once we've looked at all the leagues, obviously, but I'm trying to wrap my head around where the final 5 spots are coming from. Because, we've obviously got a lot of the regular season winners and the playoff winners have obviously already been decided. And we know that several of these leagues, like Tappara, for example, they're the 4th seeds. They've secured their place. That's another one off the list. It's really interesting kind of trying to figure out where
I've got them all written down.
Yes,
we can go through it once we've finished this in the Elite Series.
Speaking of the Elite Series, shall we move on to it? Because I don't really have anything else to mention about the quarterfinal round.
No, I mean, they haven't started the semi-finals yet, so...
And I mean, all of the top seeds went through, so I'm not really that surprised, but expected... But, it is what it is. So, speaking of the Elite Series, we have finally made it to the playoff stage, if you want to call it playoffs. All of the teams made it through. So, I may as well take you through the final standings of the season, as it were, because, it's quite important to look at. So, I'm just loading them up now. The Sheffield Steelers finished in first place. They had a very good tournament. So as things stand, I'm surprised Nottingham didn't finish in last. God, there are some miracles out there, folks. So
they really actually, to be fair to Nottingham, they pulled it out of the bag later on. But yeah, I mean Sheffield really, really strong from them. 60 goals in 12 games, averaging 5 goals a game, and you're always going to do well. I mean, they had strong forwards. We knew that. Bringing Liam Kirk in and the other forwards that they protected, we knew that was going to be strong. But yeah, then Coventry in second by regulation wins over the Nottingham Panthers in third, and the Manchester Storm in fourth. So in the playoffs, it's Coventry against Nottingham and Sheffield against Manchester. The semi-finals are 2-legged, and one of them is taking place now. The Panthers are 1-0 up, and then the final is best of 3. So that will all be done by this weekend, I believe, is the plan. So yeah, that will be why. Find interesting. I know obviously the points are obviously going to be close because of the short amount of games, but given that these teams were, for want of a better phrase, thrown together at relatively short notice, the teams have all been pretty close together and everybody's beaten everybody. And yes, Sheffield started strongly and it was difficult to catch them, but everybody has beaten everybody. It has been quite a tight, close series. There's been, several overtime games and bits like that. So I think it's been quite successful on the whole.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got to be completely honest. I only watched the very first game of the regular season. I haven't watched anything else other than that. I might tune in for the final because it's the final. It's a best of 3 series, isn't it?
It's a best of 3, and it will be over the course of the weekend, I would say. So, yeah. The final is on the 1st of May, the 2nd of May, and the 3rd of May. So what's that? That's Saturday, Sunday, Monday because it's bank holiday weekend.
Of course, that's a good point. So yeah, I might tune in for that. I've just been so busy, and obviously it's not a proper league, and it costs there's a decent charge to it. It's just we've talked about this obviously in previous episodes. It's just one of those things that's kind of do I really want to pay that money and then not have the opportunity to sit down and watch it or blah blah blah. But anyway, I digress. The one thing I will find really interesting from this Elite Series is how many of the import players end up coming back for the following season, and whether they stick with the team that they're with or whether they get more spread out with the rest of the teams in the league. Because I can fully expect some of these guys going to Cardiff or Belfast, or even maybe some of the Scottish teams picking a few of them up. Maybe this has been a good chance for these other teams to realise that there is a decent amount of young British players that deserve ice time. So they're going to go, okay, we'll bring them into our squad and give them a top 6 role or a top 9 role or a top 4 D pair role, which would be really good to see, especially the Steelers netminder. What's his name? Is it Warburton? Is that his name? Or Churchfield?
Churchfield is the one, but there's been Warburton as well. But yeah. Churchfield has been really strong for Sheffield. And yeah, it is a good one. I mean, obviously, when you've essentially got a league that's going from 4 expanding to 10, and you've got these young players that have come in. I mean, Joe Hazardine springs immediately to mind going to Manchester. And you would expect to see some of these players back. I know some of these players were on the fringe with, for example, Glasgow, because they were on 2-way contracts.
Yep.
You'd expect some players to go back to Cardiff, and so I think it might open it out. And I mean, I've spoken at length, and I know various other podcasts have, and I know you agree as well, in that the Elite League has an import level which is way higher than anywhere else in Europe.
Yeah,
and I think if there is an argument to bring to start bringing the import level down, even if it's only by 1 or 2, just look at the performances from the British players from this series. And it has been, British and predominantly Norwegian from their cancelled league that cancelled in January. But, it has been strong. There has been some good play. And, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the off season when, does anybody stay? Does a couple of the imports that came in purely to play hockey, do they decide to stay here? Do they want to go back, and we've essentially got to start the teams from scratch again? The other thing as well, of course, the criteria of those protected players, they could have been from last year, or they could be already signed for next year. Liam Kirk, for example, we know he's already signed for next year, but of the rest of the players, the vast majority of them off the top of my head were names we recognise because they were with the team last year. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be there next year.
Yeah.
They might be, but they might be protected because they should have been playing this year, and they might decide to go anyway, particularly if it's a player who was doing it alongside their degree, and this was the last year of their degree as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. And it's also worth mentioning that there might be a situation where, let's take a Sheffield, for example, where they've got a bevy of solid British players. There might be a player like Churchfield, who's played really well for them, and I think deserves a chance to kind of have a bigger role with a team in the Elite League next season, should he want one, obviously. There might be a situation where Sheffield go, we'd like to have you back, but we want to have you as a backup option. This is purely speculation, obviously. Or there might be, I don't know, a Glasgow or a Fife or...
Yeah, they're just saying the same thing. You might not get a starting role in Sheffield, but Guildford might come knocking.
Exactly. So then you end up having another solid British netminder who's on the rise, who's a younger guy. Yeah, he's not as refined as maybe an import option, but he's got a higher potential, a higher ceiling because he's younger and has something to prove. And he goes to Guildford and becomes the starting netminder for them. Like, that could be a legitimate situation, or some of these other younger guys, It's
something that, I know I made the point of when I was doing one of my Lions commentaries. Obviously, this streaming series that the Elite League has done, and we've been doing our home games and all the rest of it for the National League, is that because, from our point of view, it's free, but even with this one and paying, because anybody can pay for it, you never know who's watching.
Yeah.
So, the general, I am sure that general managers and coaches of teams not involved in this will have been watching these games.
Yeah, or been watching the highlight packages or something. Yeah.
Yeah. How do their players that have gone to this series, how have they been performing, or looking at potential new players to sign? So, it's been a really good platform for some of these younger players like Churchfield to really shine. And I would not be surprised to see him with a Elite League contract.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting once the playoffs and everything's over. And speaking of the playoffs, like Chris mentioned, semi-final round is 2-game aggregate series. Sheffield beat Manchester, 1st and 4th seed. Coventry beat Nottingham, 2nd and 3rd seed. And Nottingham are currently up 1-0. So that's where things stand right now. So there's nothing too crazy to talk about with regards to that at the moment. But I think it's really interesting to see. I love the fact that they gave more of an emphasis to these British players. And we've seen it in the squad that Pete Russell is taking with him to Latvia. We're seeing a lot of guys that you might not usually see, like Kieran Long is a name that comes to mind.
Kieran Long is
he's getting the opportunity to join Team GB. Now, whether he plays any games in the actual competition obviously remains to be seen, but he has the opportunity to make his debut with Team GB. And there was obviously, it made the rounds last week, or when the news was announced, like just how much that meant to him. Like, he's wanted to do this ever since he was a kid. So the fact that maybe Pete Russell saw his performance at the Elite Series and thought, okay, yeah, maybe that was what tipped it over the edge for him to be, right, I'm going to give him an invite. Maybe it was the extended rosters or anything, but even guys like Josh Tetlow is getting an ask up, and he's in his early 20s, So we're getting a lot of younger guys that are getting the opportunity. And I really like it. I hope that moving forwards, this lets the Elite League know that we do actually have some solid players here in the, like, solid British players here in the Elite League and in our system. Like, Jason Hewitt's another name that comes to mind. I'm pretty sure he's been Elite League alumni before, but he didn't spend the last season in the Elite League, and he's actually had a really good performance. So does that mean he gets another contract in the Elite League for next season, if he wants one? You know, like, it also has the chance for some of these older, more veteran guys that maybe some teams thought were on the out. They get the opportunity to come in and show, actually, I've still got some gas left in the tank here. Sign me up, you know? So... yeah,
I think the next few years for GB are going to be definitely one of transition, because there are, in ice hockey circles anyway, there are household names in that GB squad that have been in the GB squad for a long time now, but they're coming towards the end of their careers. So we need to start seeing these youngsters coming through. The likes of Long, as you said, the likes of Ollie Betteridge, these kind of players coming through, and Kirk, of course, coming through and taking centre stage, because if we're going to have longevity in the top tier of the World Championships with Great Britain, then we've got to have these younger players getting ice time, getting the experience in the next couple of years, because otherwise we're going to have the experienced players at the end of their career dropping off, and nobody will be there to pick the baton up, and we'll start to see ourselves slipping down again.
No, thank you. We don't want that, GB hockey. We want to stay up in the top flight and chant we're shit, and we know we are every time we win one game, and stay up in the top flight. Or even win the World Championships. That'd be fun too. So, yeah, that's a look at the Elite League. That's pretty much the last league we need to look at. We're running just under an hour, so we did that in pretty good time, Chris. I'm quite impressed with us. But you did say that you had a quiz for me this week, so let's round off this episode with a cheeky quiz.
Do you want to do the quiz first or the Champions Hockey League first?
Oh, no, do the Champions Hockey League first. My mistake. Yes, do that first.
So we've got 5 spots remaining in the Champions Hockey League. We have 1 in Sweden, 1 in Switzerland, 1 in Germany, 1 in Slovakia, and 1 in Denmark.
Of course,
if I just look at the Swedish Hockey League first, they had the 5 spots that we knew about. The first one was taken from Frölunda being the reigning champions. The next 3 were taken from the top 3 in the league. So we're waiting for 1 more. It's either the winner of the playoffs or it's going to be Skellefteå. Now, we're in the semi-finals of the Swedish Hockey League. Växjö and Rögle, as we said, are already qualified. So it's either going to be Skellefteå, who are the 4th seeds, so they are in the semi-finals, and they are, I'll call it the backup choice. So they've got 2 ways of getting into the Champions Hockey League now, winning the playoffs or not winning the playoffs, essentially.
Fair.
So it's either Skellefteå or Örebro, but Örebro have got to win the playoffs to get in.
Okay.
So that's the situation in Sweden. Of course, if Växjö win tonight and get into the final, then that goes down to 4. So it could be 4 spots by the time that this comes out. If we move into Switzerland, it's pretty much the same situation. It's either the playoff winner or Zurich. Now, this one might go a bit further down to the wire, because while Rapperswil are a game down to Zug, obviously Servette, the 6th seed, are 1 up against Zurich. So Zurich, if they don't make the final, will be hoping that Zug win the playoffs.
Indeed.
So again, it's playoff winner or Zurich. In Germany, it's, again, we got the top 3. It's either going to be the playoff winner, or it will be Bremerhaven. Now, the playoff winner would have to be Ingolstadt or Wolfsburg, the 3rd seeds. Bremerhaven being the 2nd seed, they had the 4th highest point total. So although they lost to Wolfsburg in the first round, they are, again, essentially the backup. So it's whether Ingolstadt or Wolfsburg win the playoffs as a whole as to whether Bremerhaven get in. Yep. Ingolstadt, of course, are 1 up in their best of 3. Wolfsburg are 1-0 down, so they'd have to win essentially 4 out of the next 5 games, Wolfsburg, to get into the Champions Hockey League.
Mm-hmm.
Denmark, we've mentioned, it's whoever wins the playoff final between Rungsted or Aalborg. That's currently 3-2 to Rungsted. And then finally, it's the final Challenger League, which is Slovakia. And that is their playoff winner. They are currently in the final. The playoff, the semi-finals are done. we're into the final. It's the first seed Zvolen against the third seed Poprad. Zvolen finished the regular season with 103 points from 50 games.
Wow.
And that was 4 points clear of the second seed, but third seed Poprad are on 95 points. So they finished 8 points back. So it's whoever wins that final as well. So we've got 2 where it's just whoever wins the playoffs, and then the 3 in the founding leagues of Sweden, Switzerland, and Germany, it's whoever wins the playoffs unless they're already qualified.
There you go. Thanks for the clarification. Right, let's finish this off with a quiz, Chris. I'm so ready. I'm looking forward to this, because you said it's slightly longer than usual. Let's go for it. I'm ready.
Well, it's still the 5 questions.
Okay, good.
Okay, so today, Tuesday, in America, according to my research, is National Babe Ruth Day.
Okay.
Where baseball fans celebrate one of the best players in history and a player who, of course, broke a lot of records.
Yep.
So today I'm kind of basing the quiz around record breakers and broken records in the past.
I thought you were going to say baseball, and I got kind of freaked out because I don't know much about baseball, Chris.
I know nothing about baseball. I know the Toronto Blue Jays, and that's about it.
Yes.
Right. So question 1, obviously the big record breaker that we've had in the hockey world is Patrick Marleau.
Indeed.
Who's played the most NHL games in history, recently breaking the record of Gordie Howe.
Indeed.
How many games did it take Marleau to secure his first point in the league?
Oh, that's a good question. Can I just clarify, in terms of the record that Marleau broke past Gordie Howe, it was 1,767 games, right? Was the record?
I'm pretty sure it was.
Because I always get, I think I remember telling you this before, like I always get confused. Like, part of me always thinks it's 1,782, and I don't know where I get that from.
Hang on.
I'm pretty sure it's 1,777 or 67. 67 is what I said before, wasn't it? Something like that. I don't know.
Gordie Howe had 1,767.
Right.
Marleau is now on 1,771.
Okay, right, got it. How many games did it take for him to score? Because he was the second overall pick of his draft. Funnily enough, he was the only... The pick before him was Joe Thornton, who obviously they ended up playing in San Jose together for over a decade. So it's really funny how that worked out. How many games did it take? I feel like I should know this. I don't, but I feel like I should. I'm going to say it took Patrick Marleau 3 games to score his first NHL. Is it point or goal?
Point.
Yeah, let's go 3 games.
Oh, it's 4 games.
Oh, close. Okay.
He assisted Victor Kozlov's goal at 6:35 in the second period to put the Sharks 4-1 up against the Boston Bruins on October the 11th, 1997. They ended up winning 5-2.
I would have been almost 2 years old. Or 1 year old.
Yeah, I was, 18 months?
Yeah.
Right, so second question about Marleau. Who were the opponents when he scored his first goal and, coincidentally, his first penalty on October 19th? The penalty was interference, and the goal came with just 26 seconds to go to reduce the deficit to 2 goals as they lost 5-3.
Okay, so this is Hayden's guess a random team in the NHL that was around.
Okay, I'll give you a clue. The name of that team no longer exists.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So, can you give me the year again? Sorry, was it 19?
It was 97.
7. Okay, so I've got to think of a team that was around in 97 that is now defunct. Oh, that's a good one. The only team I can think of that was in the league back in 97, that's kind of like that grey area for me, because that was when a lot of expansion was happening, but not so much relocation, as far as I'm aware. Because like the end of the 90s, there were like the Minnesota Wild came in, the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim came in, like there were loads of teams. I'm going to have to go with the only team that I can think of off the top of my head. Was it the Atlanta Thrashers?
No, it wasn't. You talked yourself out of it by saying defunct team.
Okay.
Yes. I'll give you a clue. The name of that team no longer exists.
Oh, okay. Interesting. The name of that team no longer exists. Go on, give it to me, Chris.
It was the Phoenix Coyotes.
Ah,
of course, are now Arizona.
Right, okay, right. Fair point. You called me out on that one, Chris.
Well, I gave you it. You just didn't listen to the question.
No, it's fair.
properly.
I mean, that's a difficult one to answer, though. Phoenix Coyotes,
It is,
Arizona
yeah, it
Coyotes.
is.
But no, fair play.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Okay, so this one, I think you may have done a video on this one.
Okay,
So you might. So
maybe.
what's the record for the longest KHL game?
Oh, I haven't done a video on this, but it
Or
took...
have you not? Obviously, it's a playoff game.
Yes, it's definitely a playoff game. I've done a video on the longest hockey game ever, and the longest
have you? Okay.
Stanley Cup game, playoff game, like the longest NHL game, but not the longest KHL game. Oh, I feel like I should know this.
You should.
Because every single
Not that long
time,
ago.
every single time a game goes to like double overtime in the KHL, they're always keeping track of like whether it reaches the longest game. Yeah, it was like a year or two ago, wasn't it? It was a game.
2018.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. Was it St. Petersburg, Moscow? I feel like it was.
No.
No. Was it? Oh, I don't know. I have no
There was
idea.
a Moscow side in it.
Okay.
CSK Moscow against Jokerit on the 22nd of March 2018 went into 5 overtimes before Mika Niemi scored at 142 and 9 seconds.
Wow.
So they played,
jeez.
nearly 2.5 games of hockey.
Oh my god, jeez. They must have been exhausted by the end of that one.
Must have been, yeah.
Oh, they probably had to come out and play another game 2 days later. Oh, lots of ice baths.
Okay, right. Question 4.
Okay.
Which team in the history of the Champions Hockey League has the best power play percentage?
Oh, Chris. The best part. Oh, wait. I think I saw these stats when I was doing research for my Champions Hockey League. I might get this
is
wrong.
obviously across all of their games that they've played
Is it?
over several seasons.
Now, I might get this wrong, so I might be thinking of their penalty kill. But is it the Glasgow Clan or the Braehead Clan? As
It
they
is
were known
the
at the time?
Glasgow
Yes,
Clan. 31.25%.
I remember seeing
5
that.
power play goals in 16 attempts in the 4 games they played.
That's a solid power play. Jeez.
It is a solid power play, yes. Right, so we're going Continental Cup for this final question as well.
Jeez.
Sorry, we're going Champions Hockey League.
Okay, fine. Oh, okay.
Sorry, I read Continental Cup in the question, that's why. So, there are 2 nations that don't have a good record in the Champions Hockey League, as they haven't yet had a team get out of the group. Which 2 are they? And these are countries with regular spots in the competition, so not the Continental Cup winners.
Okay, so 2 teams that haven't made it out of the group stage.
2 countries that haven't had
2
teams out of the group stage.
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad that I clarified that. Because it's obviously not Great Britain, because we had a team go to the playoffs. Well done,
Correct.
Nottingham. Okay, so so countries not including Continental Cup winners, because obviously that's not dependent on where they come from. Right.
When an Italian side won, and I'm not counting that, I'm counting countries that have a team in every year.
I feel like I want to say Poland,
right?
Although I might be wrong on that. Then I'm gonna say I might be wrong on that on any suggestion I give. So I may as well say Poland, and I'm going to say Denmark.
Close,
Ooh.
according to my research, it's Denmark and Slovakia.
Okay, no, that's fair. Wow, Poland have had a team go through to the playoffs. Fair play to them.
Yeah, I'm just going to double check all that. But yes, from what I can understand, hey, my cat is deciding to be annoying. Hey, come here. Come and say hello to everybody.
Yes.
If it's annoying.
Yes.
Everyone say hello to Corey the cat.
Hey, Corey. Oh, such a cute cat. I'd do the same with my dog, but she'd probably like knock over all of my stuff because she's like 30 kilograms. So
she's got sand all over me now. So yeah, that's So Denmark and Slovakia.
Interesting. So. Okay. Now, going back to the whole Patrick Marleau stuff, do you know what I found really interesting when they were talking about him breaking the record? Is the fact that I think as things stand, there was a certain percentage of players that weren't even born yet when he made his NHL debut. Which can Can you believe that you're making history as, you're playing your first, or you're breaking the record for the most games ever played in NHL regular season history, and you, like, I think it was something like 33% of the league's player base this season weren't even born when he played his first NHL game. Like, that's nuts. Like, that's so crazy. It's just a testament. Obviously, I made a video on my channel about Patrick Marleau. Oh, should he break Gordie Howe's record? Obviously, I had the conclusion in that video that, yeah, records are made to be broken. You should break the bloody record. Like, come on. But, you also got to factor in that if there weren't any lockouts or anything, because, he's had several lockouts during his career, he would be close to 2,000 NHL games played if it weren't for the lockouts. So, and like for, how this season was only 56 games and not 82 because of the pandemic. The 2012-13 lockout was only 48 games. The 2004-2005 lockout wiped out the entire season. Like, it's crazy to think that he'd be pushing near 2,000 regular season games in the NHL. It's just a testament to his longevity. And yeah, he's not the highest scorer in the league. I think it should give him a shoe-in for the Hall of Fame. Breaking a record like that should give you an automatic lock-in for the Hall of Fame, if you ask me. It's such a difficult record to break. And, people obviously saying that Gordie Howe's record would never have been broken, but it took 40 years to break that record. Like, if we're going to have somebody break the record, they're going to have started their career recently, and it would take another 20 years for them to do so, or it's going to take a while. So, yeah, I think he's a lock-in for the Hall of Fame. That's obviously a discussion you could have on for a lengthy period of time. But unless there's anything else you want to mention, Chris?
No, I'm going to, closer look and stuff. I'm going to give you the point for Poland because it looks as though I may have just slightly missed a bit of my research. But yeah, because Tichy, have only got like a single win and stuff. So
yeah, the only one I can think of is Krakow because they've been in it a few times. So maybe Krakow jumped in there. I can't remember. I don't know. I'm not a Polish hockey league fanatic, so I have no idea. But yeah, I think on that note, I think it's a really good place to end this week's episode of the Europuck podcast. Plenty of playoff hockey to talk about. Cheeky quiz at the end. We're really getting close to the end of the season. But then
and the Panthers go 2-0 up.
Hey! But don't you worry, folks. We're going to have plenty of World Championship stuff to talk about once the regular season is over. And we'll give you some updates with regards to what the podcast is doing over the summer months and everything like that when we get towards that point. So, this is a good place to end today's episode. If you want to keep updated on all things Europuck podcast or send us your thoughts, opinions, or questions, either from today's show or for our next show next week as we get deeper into the playoffs and some of these leagues finish, then you can follow us on Twitter or on Instagram at Europuck podcast. Either or, both. Do it. Why not? And if you enjoyed listening to both or either of your hosts, any of your hosts, me, Chris, if you like both of us, if you like neither of us, that's fine too. It's been an hour, so what are you doing with your life if you didn't enjoy listening to us? And then you can follow myself on Twitter at OddmanRushYT and Chris at Chris_Gadsby. But thanks again for watching on YouTube, listening via where you get your podcasts, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching, folks.